a lady stood up at the back of the room. She wasn't supposed to, by the way. It wasn't on the schedule or anything, but God bless her for doing it. And she said, Mr. Kenny, thanks very much for this, but I need to tell you, I'm originally from Syria. This was long before the Syrian Civil War. This is 10 years ago, 12 years ago. She said, I was an obstetrician there. And she said, I delivered thousands of babies in one of the top hospitals in Damascus. I moved to Canada 4 years ago, and I've been cleaning hotel rooms ever since. And she broke down in tears and said, this is not why I uprooted my family to come here. To go from a wonderful life in my home country. And she said, it's not, Mr. Kenny, don't get me wrong. She said, it's not really about the money for me. As a doctor, my calling is to heal people. And I feel completely disconnected from who I am and my vocation as a healer and as a doctor. She broke down in tears and said, why is Canada doing this to people like me? That woman's story has been in my mind ever since. Every day when I was the federal immigration minister, I would think about her as a symbol of the experience of countless newcomers. Like the Persian doctor, a doctor of Iranian origin I met in Vancouver at a Nowruz event many years ago, and she approached me. I don't know if anybody's here from the Persian community, but Nowruz events, they always look like the Academy Awards. Everybody's dressed to the nines. She came up to me and said, Minister, I'm a pediatrician. And my husband is a doctor as well. We've now been here for 3 years. We've gone through every assessment test, and then we're supposed to do this English test, and then it times out, and we have to do another English test, and then we have to make this application, and then they send us over to this other organization. And she says, this has been a 3-year constantly chasing our tails to get our certification to practice as physicians here. When you selected us, we thought it was because we were physicians. She said, that how come I can't work as one here? And I said, that's a very good question. And then she broke down in tears. This happens to me a lot. She said, Minister, I have to go back to Tehran now, a country I do not like. I have to go back to Tehran in order to make the income to put my son through university in Canada. I have to be separated from my son and go back to a country I fled to pay his tuition. I think about the Brazilian cab driver, Uber driver I had in Calgary 3 years ago, a dentist. He told me he had a thriving practice in Sao Paulo. It's a small town, 32 million people. And he would have been, like these doctors, he would have been at the top of the social economic strata of his country of origin, right? In a country like Brazil, 180 million people, he was probably a 1%er. So true. Or certainly in the top 5% of income and life chances. But he gave all of that up to come to this cold country because he thought it would be a better place for his kids. And he said to me, sir, I've been here now for 5 years, and I cannot get a fair shot at my license to practice as a dentist here. Why? Why? Why indeed? That is what this summit is about. It's to ask that question. As we get caught up often in the programmatic details of these issues, and we talk about the economic consequences of it, which is true, let us not forget the human dimension and the moral aspect of this issue. How sad is it that one of the most recited Canadian jokes is this, that the best place to have a heart attack is in the back of a taxi cab, because the chances are your driver's a doctor. The CBC actually made a sitcom about that. Here's my point. This is an enormous waste of human talent.
So true.
In a country, in an economy, in a province where we cannot afford to waste anyone's talents. But it is also, frankly, immoral for us to advertise Canada as this great land of freedom and opportunity, only to welcome people, often from the leading levels of their society and their home countries, to come here to face chronic underemployment and unemployment, struggling in survival jobs at the bottom of the labor market as their skills atrophy, pushing them further behind certification, and as they become demoralized. And you all know what happens then. Families turn on each other. People feel shame. They burn through their savings, making it even more difficult to afford the extra courses and diplomas. And many, this is the untold scandal about Canada's immigration story. A huge number of newcomers, after a year or two, turn around and go back home because Canada didn't work out for them. Isn't that true, Fred? Or they go to the U.S. He says he's right. And so, folks, I am here to say, and I say this with the greatest of respect to the professional regulatory bodies. They do important work, and we want them, we want you, to maintain our high and rigorous Canadian standards. We don't want people who are not really properly qualified building bridges or operating on patients in Canada. But here's my point. The Fairness for Newcomers Action Plan, the Fair Registration Practices Act, the pressure we keep putting on you to have a fair and fast process while maintaining your standards is because we have a moral obligation to these individuals. It is, I believe, fundamentally immoral to invite newcomers here to failure. And I hope that we, coming out of this summit, can be of one mind, that we must do everything in our power to knock down the barriers to success for the people who have made sacrifices and taken a big chance on this province. Are you with me on that?
100%.